Hi, everyone. So as the League Science Chair, I've been working with three teams of really great folks to develop for the first time League science goals. So these, you might, if you're part of the Mars community as well, you might know that MEPAG has science goals. League has never had science goals, and so we're well within the process now of putting those together. I want to thank Brett DeNevi to start the previous League Science Chair who started this effort and handed off some really useful documents that really helped us get off to a running start here. We've identified three science goals, or really science themes that are broad. These include uncover the lunar record of solar system origin and early history, understand the lunar record of geologic processes that have shaped the terrestrial planets, and reveal the inner solar system, volatile origin, age, and evolution. So these are kind of the three guiding themes, and we have teams of folks working under each theme to develop goals. Within each goal, there are multiple objectives, and within the objectives, there are specific investigations and activities that we suggest people could work on to achieve those goals. For the investigations and activities, it's important to know that we might have specific investigation like determine the mineralogy at a certain site, but we are very specifically not prescribing the measurement type that needs to happen. So we're not saying you have to use XRD or IR or Raman. We want to leave these like really broad so that folks can be creative and use these to propose their own investigations or missions or instruments. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so a few important things. This document specifically, or the League Science Goals specifically, are going to cover science of the moon. And future efforts might include things like science from the moon or other exploration-related topics, but they're not part of this effort. The goals and objectives listed in this presentation are in draft form, and they're subject to revision. So the committees have been working very hard over the last couple months to put these together. I'm not going to list investigations and activities just for the sake of time, but those are being worked as well. We are going to prioritize in terms of high, medium, low, the objectives and activities investigations for each theme. I'm currently working on developing a rubric that each committee will use for that. That's going to be open for comment by League XCOM and the committees before that's implemented. So the order that things are presented in this presentation are not prioritized at all, but they eventually will be. We're hoping that the draft document will be available for community review or comments later this summer. When I presented this first at the League Town Hall at LPSC, I think the most we had done at that point was actually reword what the themes were going to be. Now we have really well-developed goals, objectives, and in a lot of cases, the specific activities and investigations to go along with those. So the groups have been meeting for basically every other week for a few months and have been putting in a tremendous amount of work. And then we want this to be a living document, so we have planned to review and revise this every 18 to 24 months. Next slide, please. So just wanted to call out the team. These folks have been, again, working very hard to develop these goals, objectives, and investigations. So Tab Preisel, Jacob Richardson, and Carrie Donaldson-Hanna are the chairs for each of themes 1, 2, and 3, and you can see the other folks involved here for each theme. Again, I just want to call out that they've been working really hard and doing a fantastic job as they're developing the goals and objectives and investigations. Next slide, please. All right, so the next bunch of slides are basically just the current state of where the goals and objectives are. I know this is like a ton of text, and so I won't go over every objective in detail, but these slides will be available and the recording will be available if you want to review in a little bit. But each theme has 3 or 4 goals, and each goal has between a few and up to 8 objectives, each of which might have 2 to 4 or 5 investigations or activities. So we're kind of going down from general to very specific as we go from goal to objective to investigation. So goal 1 for theme 1 is determine how and when the moon formed via giant impact in order to understand how the final stages of accretion shaped the terrestrial planets. And you can see the objectives listed there related to the timing of the giant impact, differentiation between the different moon forming scenarios, and so on. The second goal for the first theme is to understand the unique role of the far side South Polar Lake and Megabasin in the evolution of the moon. And so in terms of understanding the impact flux, determining the age, the structure, and there's several other objectives that are still under development here. SPA kind of plays a special role. There are goals and other themes that are related to SPA as well as kind of the giant impact and cratering history of the moon, and that's okay. We're eventually going to tie everything together, identify cross-cutting themes, and it's very possible that similar objectives might show up under different goals for different themes. That's not something we're purposefully avoiding. Next slide, please. So goal 3 is to understand how impacts recorded on the ancient lunar surface relate to Earth's solidification timing and habitability history and delivery to volatiles and organics. And again, this is something that we see a theme as well, using the moon to understand our place in the solar system, to understand the Hadean Earth for which we have no record, and using the moon as a witness plate to better understand Earth, both in terms of its formation, its volatile content, its place in the solar system and in the galaxy, which gets to goal 4, to determine and reconstruct the extent to which solar and galactic processes have been preserved in the lunar record, to understand how the changing solar evolution and galactic environments have affected the terrestrial planets and habitability of Earth. Next slide, please. Okay, theme 2 is to understand the lunar record of geologic processes that have shaped the terrestrial planets as preserved at the moon. And again, tons of objectives here, so I'll just go over the goals. To investigate the modern physical and chemical state of the lunar interior and processes that have evolved the interiors of the moon and other terrestrial bodies. To investigate endogenous processes that have built and evolved the lunar crust. So this goal is heavily related to lunar volcanism, volcanic processes that have shaped the lunar crust. Next goal, please. Or sorry, next slide, please. Investigate exogenous processes that have modified the lunar crust. This is related primarily to impacts and the effects of impacts on the lunar crust. And there should be, not be surprising that this overlaps with some of the goals and objectives that we saw in theme 1. Next is to investigate ongoing processes that develop the lunar regolith and the lunar surface. So this is kind of more modern day stuff, including space weathering. If you're interested in space weathering, this is where you would look to understand the LEAG science goals to understand space weathering. Next slide, please. Finally, theme 3, volatiles. 3 goals here. Determine the age, composition, abundance, and distribution of endogenous and exogenous volatiles on the moon. The specific objectives here are still under development. Determine the age and origin of lunar volatiles to better understand the source of Earth's volatiles. Again, relating back to early Earth's history. And finally, the last slide, goal 3, characterize the lunar volatile cycle and evolution of the lunar volatile system over time, with numerous objectives there. So just take the last minute or so to talk a little bit about the process. In some cases, the objectives, like as you saw, are not fully developed. The groups, in addition to meeting every other week and discussing these and coming up with these on their own, they have been spending a lot of time interviewing outside subject matter experts to get their take on specific topics to help us develop the goals and objectives. They're working now to flesh out the text that's going to go along with each of these themes, goals, and objectives, including introductory material, material that references the larger group of community documents, including the Decadal Survey, the Lunar Exploration Roadmap, the Moon to Mars objectives, and so on. And so as they are writing those up, I'm kind of working along with the executive secretaries to make sure the different groups are, the different committees are talking to each other, and that where we can identify areas of synergy, but not too much overlap. And anyways, like I said, hopefully by late summer or midsummer, we'll have something to share with the community to solicit your further input on that. Thank you very much.